Hello, everyone. Today we are going to learn about estar and ser. These are two verbs, Spanish verbs that kind of mean the same thing. They're like salsa and guacamole. They're green, they're tasty. Yes, there is green salsa. And there are different ways of expressing the verb to be. So by the end of this video, my hope is that you'll learn how to conjugate ser and estar and that you'll understand why they're both irregular and you'll learn all the use cases so you can use them on your own. So let's start with estar. We're doing the present tense only. So estar, it's very similar to any present tense AR verbs. If you know how to conjugate AR verbs in the present tense, you already know how to conjugate estar. The only reason why it's irregular is because it has this y at the end of the first person yo. So it has that y. Remember, anything, any irregularity that doesn't follow the same exact patterns of regular verbs makes the verb irregular. So that's why estar is irregular. Other than that, it has the same endings o, as, a, amos, an, all the same endings as regular AR verbs. And then ser, when it comes to ser, well, it's irregular. You can tell because it doesn't even follow, it doesn't have the endings of ER verbs. There's something weird going on with the two pronoun. It doesn't even start with an S. So it changes completely, but it keeps the S for yo, nosotros, ellos, ustedes, ellas, so on and so forth. So it's irregular, and we can't really break it down. It doesn't. Yeah, it'll be more work for you. So just memorize it. That's the best way to learn it. You memorize the conjugations. Soy, eres, es, somos, son. Again, these both are the present tense and they mean to be. So when do we use estar? Well, I made this nice acronym for you. I hope I'm pronouncing that right because I like pronouncing things correctly. So, uh, you know, position, location, action, condition, emotion, place. That's when you use estar. You guys get it? It's like it's like words within words. It's pretty cool, right? So position or location. Here's an example. El gerente está en la oficina. Temporal where? Temporal. Estar is temporal. Keep that in mind. El gerente está en la oficina. He is at the office. We're talking about location or position. Action. El gerente está negociando. He is negotiating. uh, hashtag present progressive. So we use estar for ongoing situations. We use estar for the present progressive, not ser. You'll never use ser. That's a sin. Don't use ser. Do not use ser for the present progressive. It is estar. Condition. El negocio está rentable. And this is going to be very confusing. Listen, it's going to be confusing, but pay attention, please. You'll get it. You'll understand. You'll understand by the end of the video. El negocio está rentable. El negocio está rentable. This is temporal and it could be a personal belief. Personal belief. The business is profitable. I'm talking about some condition, some state, some condition of a noun. Could be a thing, a person, could be a place, could be anything, any entity, anything that's a noun. So that's it for estar. Now, when do we use ser? Here's another acronym. Definition, identity, essence, origin, characteristics, time, date, so on and so forth. Let's dive into this. Definition or identity. Key idea, who or what someone or something is. You're describing or defining a thing or a person. Here's an example. Who, for people. Ella es la gerente. She is the manager. And then for things, this is the product. Este es el producto. Siguiente, next one is origin. Origin, not much to say. Ella es de Colombia. She's from Colombia. That's it. Pretty easy. All right, characteristics. And then the key idea here is that objectively are, or I believe to be permanent, that are objectively generally viewed as objective, or that I believe to be permanent. This is one that could be confusing for students at first. El contrato es justo. El contrato es justo. When I say that, I'm saying that the contract is fair, but I'm saying that in a way that there's no discussion about it. There's not much discussion. I firmly believe that this is an objective statement, even if someone disagrees with me. Again, doesn't necessarily have to be overall objective, but just something that I believe in. Time and date, to talk about time, dates, and hours. La reunión es a las 2. The meeting is at 2. We also use it to talk about ownership. Ser plus de. El pedido es de los socios. The order is, or I should rather say, belongs to uh, the partners. The order belongs to the partners. This is a tricky one again because we use ser, we use the verb to be. In English, you could translate that in different ways. The best way would be using the verb to belong, that it belongs to someone, it belongs to something. Something else. In that same way, we use it to talk about relationships, connections, or roles. Here's an example. Ella es la asesora de mi equipo. She is the advisor of my team. So there's a connection between, well, the advisor and the team, a relationship between the two. So that was it. And then one more point, and this is where things can get tricky. Um, uh, this is a general outline of how to break things down, how to understand when you use both. Because in Spanish speakers can use those interchangeably. They can use both for the same exact sentence. So when talking about nature of a quality, when describing something, if you're using ser, you're saying that you believe that there's something permanent or something inherent in that thing that you're describing. So that whenever you use that an adjective in addition to the verb ser to describe a thing or person, you believe that that description, that adjective, it's inherently permanent, regardless again of what everybody else says. When it comes to estar, you would and you're describing something, you're describing something by using a star, you are saying that it's temporal or changeable. When talking about time, you're if you use ser, time is timeless and enduring in a sense, because if you say it is, it is 2 o'clock, es or son las dos, it is 2 o'clock, son las dos, you're not talking about some specific situation, if that makes sense. You're talking about time. So what is that to? It could be anything. It could be the meeting, it could be the class, it could be you watching this video. You're not talking about any specific moment, but you're using time in a sense that's more like enduring and timeless. I hope that makes sense. So maybe it makes more sense when you compare it to estar. So for instance, for estar, you do use it for specific moments or conditions. So el gerente está en la oficina. The manager is at the office. So there's one specific moment or condition, which is again this is also why we don't use it for talking about describing the time, describe telling the hour. Locations. The key point here is that set is used to describe events or location of an event. So the meeting is at the company. Uh, la reunión es en la empresa. The meeting is at the company. La reunión es en la empresa. Estar describes a physical location literally. Describes a physical location. So, el gerente está en la oficina. Temporal physical location. Está en la oficina. He is at the office. And then, most importantly, as I said at the beginning of the video, You do not use the progressive tenses with ser. You use estar for the progressive tenses, which we'll learn eventually. Here's how you apply all of this. This is why it can be confusing. You can use, like I said, this interchangeably depending on how you want to say it, depending on the context and depending on what you mean. So, el producto es barato or el producto está barato. If I believe that there's an inherent quality of the product that makes it cheap, regardless of what everybody else says. Everybody else in the room can say that it's expensive, but there's an inherent quality that I believe that the product has. So I'm going to say el producto es barato. I want to make that statement very clear and firm. In contrast, if I say el producto está barato, it's something that I believe that it's changeable. It's something that I believe that it could change in the short term. And again, you don't always use both interchangeably, but you do sometimes, especially uh, when describing things and when using adjectives. I hope this helped. Have a nice rest of your day.